Library of Heaven's Path. Chapter 6, What did you do to our young mistress? Finishing what has to be done, Zhuoyang was ready to see the fellow before her make an embarrassment out of himself. Suddenly, an idea came to mind and a record crystal appeared in her sleeves. Record crystal, it was an object capable of recording video and audio in its surrounding. She intended to use it as evidence of Zhang Xuan's wrongdoing. This way, he would be unable to talk his way out of it when she spread word about his crime. Let's see how you would be humiliated then. To think that you would dream of competing with Lu Sunlishi, dream on. Upon the thought that she would be able to grab hold of evidence on him soon to punish him and vent her frustration, Zhuoyang's eyes glittered and she almost failed to control her laughter. Suppressing her happiness, just as she was waiting to see what nonsense the other party would come up with, a pair of clear eyes reminiscent of lanterns appeared right in front of her. Ah! Zhuoyang leapt in shock and backed away hurriedly. Only then did she realize that it was Zhang Xuan. She grinded her teeth in anger and exclaimed, "What are you doing?" "Relax, I am just taking a look." With his hands behind him, he circled around Zhuoyang, shaking his head. Then, he suddenly stopped before Zhuoyang with less than 1 qi between them. She could feel the warmth from his body. Zhuoyang's face blushed. From young, there hadn't been a single man who had been in such proximity with her. Her heart beat furiously. Then, she had an unhurried voice saying, "You are sick." Hearing those words, Zhuoyang almost erupted and fainted on the spot. "You are the one that is sick, your entire family is sick." She was on the verge of going crazy. What's wrong with this fellow's brain? She executed a set of martial arts for him to point out the flaws in them. Instead, this fellow said that she was sick. How could such a vile person exist in the world? Why did you start hurling insults? Zhang Xuan frowned. Soon, he understood what other meanings his words could hold and smiled faintly. "I am saying that your body is sick, I am not insulting you." "I am not sick." Zhuoyang humphed coldly. "In my opinion, you are the one who is sick. Something is wrong with your brain." She was as strong as an ox. A single fist of hers had a strength of more than 100 kilograms behind it. She was very clear on the fact whether she was sick or not. "Don't refute my words first. Do you often feel a vague pain in your dance Hong 2 and Zhuja 3 appointment? Especially on the night of a full moon, when the humid wind blows, a faint red tinge will appear on your body and you will like." At this point, Zhang Xuan hesitated for a moment, as though it was difficult to verbalize it out. He continues, "No matter how you train, you feel like your heart won't calm down?" "How? How did you know?" The furious Zhuoyang had intended to refute every word that the other party would say directly, but after hearing those words, her face turned red and she became stupefied. It wasn't that the words he said were incorrect, but they were simply too correct. Recently during training, she would feel a faint pain in her dance Hong and Zhuju, although she would just bear it since the pain wasn't severe. The crux of the problem was that on the night of a full moon, when the cold wind blows, her body would turn weird. A strong desire would surge through her body as it turned red. Unable to suppress her raging emotions, she would find herself craving the embrace of a man. She was just a 16 to 17-year-old young lady who had yet to undergo the matrimony of human bodies, so she was unable to tell what that emotion was. She only felt embarrassed by it. Initially, she thought that she could just bear with it and it would pass. However, these feelings became more and more intense. As her body developed and her chest became more and more fleshed out, she felt those tendencies getting more and more uncontrollable. In the past, she could deal with it with just 2 circulations of her cultivation technique. But now, even 10 times wasn't enough for the urges to subside. She could only halt with her training until the sun rises. As this affair was really too bizarre, she didn't dare to tell anyone about it. Even her best friends and her city lord father were kept in the dark, despite it being a matter no one knew about. How did this fellow find out about it? It was also due to her being unable to bear it that she came to the academy in a hope to find the crux of the problem and solve it once and for all. I am a teacher. I could tell from the punch routine you executed just now. Zhang Xuan replied calmly. Of course, it was impossible to tell this much through looking at one's punch routine. The Library of Heaven's Path was an extraordinary treasure. As long as she possessed flaws, even if these flaws have nothing to do with her skills, it would be recorded in it. Exactly because he had seen her problems, that's why Zhang Xuan had a bizarre look on his face. Is there a solution? Zhuoyang clenched her jaws and asked with a reddened face. After she was so resolute to expose the fraud of the party, she ended up having her problems exposed by him in an instant. It made her feel embarrassed. There is a method to resolving it. Come to class tomorrow and I will explain it to you. Zhang Xuan gestured with his hands. Really? Zhao Yu's eyes lit up in disbelief. She was very aware of the problems in her body. Due to her inability to control those raging desires, it caused her become irritable and impatient in everything she does. Initially, she thought she could only conceal this matter in her heart and that there was no way to solve this problem. However, never would she ever dream that this teacher who was the last in the entire academy would be able to uncover it in just a few words. Furthermore, he had a solution to treat it. If you don't trust me, you can look for other teachers in the academy. Zhang Xuan flung his hand with an indifferent expression, the look of an expert. No, no. Teacher, you are the only one. Zhuoyang hurriedly nodded her head. It hadn't been just a day or two since the start of her suffering. Countless physicians in the city couldn't tell what was wrong with her. Even her father, City Lord Zhao, wasn't able to tell that there was something amiss with her. Yet, this Zhang Xuan she could tell with just one look. Just comparing their eyes of discernment, none of these people could compete with him. That was exactly the reason why she thought that he would have a way to treat her problem. That record crystal, do you still intend to keep it? Zhang Xuan pointed at her sleeves. Ah! Zhuoyang was horrified. Only now did she recall the record crystal she intentionally left behind so as to get evidence on him. If the contents of the conversation were to leak out, how could she continue to walk with her head held up high? I don't. Exerting some force with her palm, Kaka, the record crystal was reduced to dirt. After destroying the crystal, Zhuoyang glanced at Zhang Lishi once again. This time, his face didn't look so hateful. Rather, it was an enigmatic face. Despite concealing the record crystal so discreetly, she still got caught. Not to mention, the problems with her body were exposed by him. How could someone of such capabilities score a 0 on the teacher qualification examination? He must be indifferent to fame and reputation, apathetic to the views of outsiders. I have heard that experts are all like that. When this idea appeared in her head, Zhang Xuan's position in her heart evolved from a swindler to one of the top experts in the world. Take your identity token to claim your bedding and your books. Also, look for your lodging while you're at it. We shall start lessons punctually tomorrow. Seeing that another student had been reeled, Zhang Xuan waved his hand as he passed down instruction to her. Suddenly, a loud roar could be heard from the outside and in a flash, a human figure rushed in. Who? The person who entered was a middle-aged man. He carried a ferocious aura with him as he entered into the classroom. From a single look, one can tell that he wasn't weak. Young mistress. After entering the door, the middle-aged man stopped and bowed to Zhuoyang. Uncle Yao, why are you here? Zhuoyang stared at him blankly. This wasn't anyone else but the butler from Bio City whom her two friends went to invite, Yao Han. Just as he was about to leave after sending Zhuoyang to the academy. Her two friends rushed over to inform him that the young mistress wanted to acknowledge the fellow who scored a 0 on the teacher qualification examination as her teacher, and that he even ordered the young mistress to scrub the toilet bowls. Hearing those words, butler Yao Han almost exploded on the spot. Young mistress, the apple of the eye of the city lord. At home, no one dared to order her around. To dare to get her to sweep the floor and scrub the toilet bowls. He was too audacious. If this fellow was one of the more reputable teachers in the academy, he could drop the matter since they tend to be pickier. The crux of the problem was that this fellow was the last in the teacher qualification examination, not to mention he even drove a person berserk. How could the young mistress study under someone like that? Even in the city, the people who guided her, even if casually, were much stronger than this person over here. Young mistress, are you, staring coldly at Zhang Xuan, Yao Han quickly glanced at the young mistress. I have already acknowledged Zhang Lishi as my teacher. Zhao Ya declared. Running here with his full strength, he didn't think that he would still be a step too slow. Yao Han's face darkened as he pulled Zhao Ya to his back. He stared at Zhang Xuan coldly, quickly withdraw our young mistress from your tutelage. Then, apologize. Otherwise, when I blow this matter up, everyone will know that you bewitched an underage lady as a teacher to get her to come under your tutelage. Bewitched an underage lady? Isn't your use of phrase a little too much? Zhang Xuan shook his head. If others were to hear such words, they would think that he had done something towards Zhao Ya. The heavens could serve as his witness that all he had done was to accept a student. It was an extremely pure action. Don't play around with me. The young mistress of our family is a talented genius. She isn't someone a person of your qualification can teach. If you were to remove her from your lessons now, I can choose to just let this pass. Otherwise, I will definitely bring this up to the principal and have you fired. Yao Han howled. However, before he could finish his words, Zhao Ya interrupted him from his back. Uncle Yao. What are you doing? I have acknowledged Zhang Lishi as my teacher of my own free will, why are you causing trouble for me? Zhao Ya stomped her feet. The reason why she came to the academy was to solve the problem with her body. She was still happy over the fact that the teacher before her assured her that he would be able to help her, and yet this fellow here came to mess it up. What the heck was he doing? Of your own free will? Yao Han glanced at the young mistress. Do you think that he can really give you guidance that would allow your strength to surge? The young mistress was a proud person, he knew that well. Could it be that this teacher who was reputed as trash is able to guide her? That's why she acknowledged him. Allow my strength to surge? That he didn't do, Zhao Ya shook his head. The other party only pointed out her illness, he didn't guide her on her cultivation. No. Then, Yao Han was baffled. All right, Uncle Yao, stop asking. Recalling her own illness, Zhao Ya's face turned red. Seeing the young mistress behaving like that, Yao Han stared blankly in confusion. Then, when he saw the shattered record crystal on the floor, his face turned frosty and in a split moment, he seems to have turned into a rampaging lion. You darned brat, what did you do to our young mistress? Did you think that I wouldn't dare to kill you right now? Boom. In his rage, a powerful aura surged forth and the wind howled. Jia, the ground creaked in agony as though it was unable to bear the heavy pressure. 1 Qi equals 33.3 centimeters. Dance Hong is an acupointment in the center of an horizontal line that passes through your two nipples. Juju is just below the center of your ribcage.